Hi, welcome to Classic Recaps. When giant monsters rise from the ocean depths to wreak havoc, humanity's only hope lies in the hands of the Jaeger pilots. Can the Jaeger's pilots turn the tide and save humanity? Or will the monsters prove too powerful to overcome, dooming the planet to a bleak and terrifying future? The fate of the world hangs in the balance, and time is running out. The film opens with the world in chaos. Monstrous kaijus, emerging from a mysterious portal deep in the Pacific Ocean, wreaked havoc and destruction everywhere. Desperate to fight back, governments joined forces to create the Jaegers, colossal robots controlled by two pilots linked through a neural bridge. Raleigh and Yancey, two brothers, were among the select few chosen to operate the Jaegers. One night, as Raleigh lay asleep, the alarm blared, signaling the emergence of a kaiju. He jolted awake and hastily roused his brother as they rushed to gear up and head toward their Jaeger. As they entered the cockpit, a rush of memories flooded their minds through the neural drift, as they synchronized with each other and their machine. The Jaeger was launched into the tumultuous ocean, where they spotted a ship in distress. They quickly moved to rescue it, but as they turned to leave, a monstrous kaiju surfaced, intent on destroying them. A brutal battle ensued, with the brothers barely managing to evade the kaiju's deadly strikes. As the kaiju lunged towards them, Raleigh and Yancey charged up the weapon, unleashing a devastating electric blow. The kaiju fell to the ground, defeated, and the brothers breathed a sigh of relief. But their triumph was short-lived. Marshal Pentecost receives the signal that the kaiju is still alive. Suddenly, the ground shakes as the monstrous creature bursts through the earth and charges toward the Jaeger. In a frenzy of thrashing claws and flailing limbs, the kaiju savagely attacks the Jaeger and rips off its left arm. Yancey is left exposed, vulnerable to kaiju's wrath. Just when he is about to give Raleigh instructions, the kaiju grabs Yancey and kills him. Despite the shock of losing his brother, Raleigh fights back and delivers another blow to the kaiju. Back at the control center, the command loses signals of the kaiju and Raleigh's Jaeger. The next day, Raleigh's Jaeger collapses on the shore where an old man and his grandson find him. 5 years pass, and the world is plagued by even more powerful kaijus. The government is losing faith in the Jaeger program and decides to focus on building a wall instead. Meanwhile, Raleigh has retired as a pilot and is working as a construction worker, helping to build the very wall meant to keep the kaijus out. But when his boss asks for volunteers to work on the top of the wall, Raleigh can't resist the call of danger. Back at the control center, Pentecost hatches a plan to defeat the kaijus once and for all, determined to go down fighting. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance as the kaijus continue to wreak havoc, and the Jaeger pilots prepare for their most perilous mission yet. The next day, Pentecost travels to Raleigh and greets him. He requests his return to the team. Raleigh declines. He tells Pentecost that his brain was still attached to his brothers when he was killed, and that the trauma was too much for him. Pentecost informs him that the world is ending, and everyone will die. He could die by waiting for the kaijus, or he could fight them off. Raleigh finally joins Pentecost and goes to Hong Kong. He meets Dr. Newton and Mako, Pentecost's adopted daughter. He tells Raleigh they have 4 Jaegers left to fight the kaijus. He says they'll attack the portal where the kaijus are emerging, but Raleigh says they've tried this before and failed. Pentecost promises that his plan will work. Mako asks Pentecost to co-pilot with Raleigh, but he refuses because she is not ready to face a kaiju. Raleigh is later taken to a small room where co-pilot candidates are tested. Raleigh manages to take down all candidates when Mako offers to fight him. She wins, impressing Raleigh. He tells Pentecost that he wants Mako to be his co-pilot, but he refuses. Meanwhile, Dr. Newton, against Pentecost's orders, decides to form a neural bridge with part of a kaiju's brain. He begins seeing images until it becomes too much for his body to continue with the connection. Pentecost visits Mako in her room and tells her that he promised her revenge on kaijus for taking her parents. He allows her to co-pilot with Raleigh. Soon, Mako and Raleigh form a neural bridge and activate their Jaeger. Another scientist approaches Pentecost and tells him about Dr. Newton's findings. Dr. Newton tells Pentecost that aliens want to conquer Earth and will keep sending stronger kaijus until all humans are killed. At the base, Mako and Raleigh establish a neural connection when Mako gets stuck inside the memory from the day her parents were killed, and she was rescued by Pentecost. Raleigh witnesses the whole memory with her and tries to get her to snap out of it, but Mako was too far gone. Suddenly, Mako unconsciously activates the Jaeger's weapon and gets ready to shoot. The men jump into action and cut off all the connections with the Jaeger before it goes out of control. Mako gets too overwhelmed with Raleigh, Yancey, and her own memories, causing the neural connection to fail. A disappointed Pentecost dismisses Mako and tells Raleigh that he needs to find another co-pilot. Suddenly, an alarm in the control room begins to go off. The voice tells everyone that 2 Category 4 kaijus have emerged out of the portal. Pentecost decides to send the Jaegers to counter them, but keeps Raleigh at the base since he needed to find a new co-pilot. Meanwhile, Dr. Newton manages to find Hannibal Chow, who is dealing with Kaiju's body parts. He is fascinated to see how Hannibal had managed to preserve the body parts and even the parasites that lived on a Kaiju's body. When Hannibal asks Dr. Newton who sent him, he tells him that he cannot reveal who sent him, but that he needs a Kaiju brain to form a neural connection with. One by one, the Jaegers are released into the Pacific Ocean, and they begin attacking the Kaiju. The first Jaeger immediately gets destroyed because the Kaiju had evolved and gotten much stronger than anyone could have anticipated. When the second Jaeger approaches the Kaiju, it manages to land one blow before the Kaiju fires an acid-like liquid at them, which causes the Jaeger to short-circuit. Then, the third Jaeger is deployed, and it begins fighting with the Kaiju, causing it to fall back into the water. Suddenly, the Kaiju releases an electromagnetic wave. It causes the lights to go out everywhere, including the control center and the last Jaeger. Raleigh, who had been watching this, asks Pentecost to let him and Mako go and fight off the Kaiju before it kills them. Pentecost reluctantly agrees as there's no better option. Mako and Raleigh quickly prepare themselves and then are released into the ocean. The Kaiju notices them and begins heading towards them. However, before it can attack, Mako and Raleigh launch the first strike. After a furious battle, they manage to defeat the Kaiju. Another Category 4 Kaiju is wrecking the city center. Dr. Newton and Hannibal watch the city burn. Hannibal tells Dr. Newton that the Kaiju controlling aliens are smart. He explains a neural bridge is two-way, and that the Kaiju was connected to his brain. This meant the aliens knew he had researched their history. They also knew everything about humans from his memories. He concludes that the Kaiju is heading towards them, with one goal: to kill Dr. Newton. Mako and Raleigh enter the city and attack the Kaiju before it can reach Dr. Newton. However, they are not able to defeat the Kaiju. The Kaiju grabs their Jaeger and begins flying towards the sky. Before it can take the Jaeger out of the atmosphere, Mako and Raleigh activate a sword and cut the Kaiju in half. Before they fall onto the surface, they activate their power booster and land safely. Then, Dr. Newton arrives at the scene where the dead Kaiju's body had fallen. He goes to take the Kaiju's brain, but as the men inside its stomach get closer, they hear a heartbeat, and another Kaiju jumps toward Dr. Newton from the dead Kaiju's womb. Before it can reach Dr. Newton, the new Kaiju chokes on its umbilical cord and goes down. Hannibal shows up and tells Dr. Newton that he was just a baby and was not going to survive. However, before he can finish his sentence, the Kaiju opens its mouth and kills Hannibal. At the base, Pentecost orders for the remaining 2 Jaegers to be brought to 100% functionality. He tells Raleigh that he plans on going to the portal himself, along with Mako and Raleigh, so that he can detonate a nuclear bomb and get rid of kaijus once and for all. In the city, Dr. Newton manages to find a Kaiju brain and establishes a neural connection with it. He discovers that the portal only opens for kaijus, and that even if the Jaegers get there, the portal will not open for them. Before he can communicate his message, the 2 Jaegers with Pentecost, Raleigh, and Mako reach the portal. Just then, Dr. Newton manages to give them his message, but he is too late because another Kaiju emerges out of the portal. But this one is in a much higher category than the last Kaijus. An epic fight takes place, and both Jaegers get damaged. When another Kaiju comes out of the portal and attacks the group, Pentecost detonates the nuclear bomb, sacrificing himself to kill the kaiju. Meanwhile, Mako and Raleigh continue fighting and manage to tackle the kaiju inside the portal. With Mako's oxygen levels going down, Raleigh releases her pod and operates the Jaeger alone. He enters the other dimension and detonates the bomb there. He manages to escape before the bomb goes off and destroys the alien dimension. The movie ends with Mako and Raleigh waking up in the middle of the ocean, finding that they had managed to destroy the kaijus. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Please help us out by hitting the like button. Drop a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movies. See you in the next one.